Ryan Day's evolution as Ohio State's head coach is transforming the Buckeyes' game plan.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Hump Day edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And during today's show, we will discuss things that we learned from the Buckeyes game against Minnesota that they can apply during their game this weekend against Illinois. But before we get to any of that, once again, one of my guys is back on the show. It's Jeff Hunt, the host of the Jeff Needs Sports podcast. I love anytime I get Jeff on the show because he gives it to us straight every single time. And Jeff has been very honest when he's on the show about Ryan Day and about Ryan Day, the coach. Some things Ryan Day has gotten right, some things Ryan Day has gotten wrong, how Ryan Day has evolved from his time when he first took over the program in 2019 until now. And Jeff, I think about the evolution of Ryan Day. A lot of what I've seen this year is not stuff that is so much post-snap. To me, offensively and defensively, this team has been more prepared pre-snap to get on the field. If you're on the 11 on offense, you get out there, the quarterback is able to look on the other side of the line of scrimmage, see what the defense is doing, get a picture and say, oh no, we got to change things up. Defensively, this defense is doing the same thing, where they are getting on the field, looking at the offense and saying, oh no, we got to change things up. And as I went back and watched the Minnesota game, I saw Caleb Downs and Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles over and over and over hitting the right side or the left side of a defensive lineman saying, nah, move this way, move that way. And they're more prepared this year than I think they were last year when they won the national championship.
Oh, I think it's not even close. I mean, when you told me this was normally I get to do fortunate to do the end of the week discussion. I have to come up with a prediction for the game and all this. This midweek stuff is awesome. And I also get to reflect on, what I saw in the shoe Saturday night. So I appreciate that. But yeah, you're totally right. That was my biggest takeaway when you asked me the question, was that it feels like Ryan Day is a head coach now, a CEO. Yes. Jay and Jeff have been saying this for years. Like, he is finally like, okay, I have to hire these people. I have to get these people around me. But it also feels like he understands, like, this is what I trust my defense can do. And this is what I trust my offense can do. And they work together. And it's frustrating because everybody, like we've talked about it, Jay, everybody tells me like Tressel ball, and they say it's so negative and so negative. I'm like, here's the thing about Tressel. He didn't get caught from behind. He held leads. He won those games. Like, teams didn't, snag him. And Ryan Day feels like a guy who's like, I've got an offensive game plan and I've got a defensive game plan, and they mesh together. I think, I don't want to talk about, staff or whatever, but I do feel like he is more comfortable with his, we'll say, offensive leaders and defensive leaders and the coaching staff, that it feels like they're on the same page, because there's so many years where we're like, oh, the offense, can score 100. And here's the thing, this offense can still score 100. That's not what Day's like. I understand, the mission here. Not that I agree with it. We'll talk about it later. But the defense is like, I trust that this defense is legit this good. So that was my biggest thing, is that Ryan Day feels like he's in charge, and it feels like he's letting the folks around him that he chose do their job, and he looks more comfortable as it's happening. He looks less he never looks like he's questioning the calls like I thought he did for a few years. And then, of course, the early years, he was one of the best offensive coordinators in the sports. And, like him and Hafley had a great season, but I think they were coaching two different teams, which it should have worked and almost worked. But he really feels like he's the CEO of this team and comfortable with it as we stand right now.
One thing I think that Ryan Day understands now, probably better than when he took over the team, is the importance of getting former Buckeyes with these current Buckeyes every single day. I have seen pictures and videos, and I think it goes with the evolution of Ryan Day as well. I've seen pictures and videos of Maurice Clarett on the sidelines during games, where that was something that wasn't happening originally. There were some I think, friction and misunderstanding between those two guys. And so they sat down, talked about it, and figured some things out. I'm not going to say I don't know who's right and who's wrong. I don't really care. I see the end result, and I'm happy with it. But he also went out there, and he got Tim Walton, the former Buckeye, to be on the defensive coaching staff. He got James Laurinaitis. He has Brian Hartline. And I think him getting those older Buckeyes, those in the coaching staff, and also a guy like Maurice Clarett to be around the team all the time, I think that's very big on Ryan Day to help the young guys realize this isn't just a one-time thing or a 4 or 5 year thing. This is a Buckeye brotherhood for life. And you can get a guy like Maurice Clarett that had his own trouble in the past to still be here, be a big part of the program. And Ryan Day didn't understand Buckeye culture when he got here. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't. He was an NFL guy. He played at, I believe, Massachusetts. He didn't have to know Buckeye culture when he got here, but he had to figure it out. He had to learn about Buckeye culture. And the big thing about Ohio State is the brotherhood. That's not just a thing when you're on campus. It lasts for a lifetime. And I think that shows up in a big way with a lot of these guys, because I believe that a lot of these players don't want to let these former players down.
And truth be told, like, Ryan Day had a tough assignment. He was following not only one of the great coaches in Ohio State history, one of the great coaches in college football history, in Urban Meyer, when he takes over. And I do think, I think the criticism was fair the first couple of years of, like, he tried so hard to, like, cut off the ties and, like, this is my team and all of these things that a lot of young coaches do. Like, Jay, I did podcast after podcast after podcast of being like, this guy doesn't get it. This guy is trying to do this and just trying to do that. And honestly, it obviously took the national title for it to be like, okay, we hear what you're saying now. And so now that he made it, because if year one, he just lets the former players and former coaches and everything kind of, infest the team, I don't know if I think it undercuts him in all this. So I think as a coach, Ryan Day's bigger plan has worked out. And now he's like, okay, now like, I've earned my Ohio State respect. I've got a national championship like the other great coaches that you talked about have. I've got the winning percentage. I've got the players, which is important, because here's the thing, as Ohio State fans, we really care about the players on the field. We can tell, like, your level of coaching. Basically, we look at your middle linebacker and we're like, how good of a coach are you? And okay, Arvell Reese is like all I need to know. But I mean, so nowadays, like, I've taken control of the franchise. I've taken control of this program. Now I will allow you to come in and talk about, the past and all that, because here's the thing about Ohio State. It's a historic program. Ryan Day is now a part of the foundation of Ohio State. He's a part of the past of Ohio State because he has won his national championship and all these things. So he is, put in his dues and he's earned it. And so now he controls who has access and who has all this. And I think he's done it the right way. And now the brand is standing out possibly more than it ever has, even when Urban was there. So, like, it's amazing what he's done. The evolution of Ryan Day has been, like, understanding the brand, but not letting it overwhelm him. And then now using it to his advantage.
The evolution of Ryan Day showed up in a big way against Minnesota, and Jeff was in the house for that packed crowd in the night game when the Buckeyes demolished the Minnesota Golden Gophers. We're going to get Jeff's thoughts about what he saw this past Saturday night coming up after the break. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same attention to how we craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you could end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You can identify that you aren't saving as much as you thought. Monarch helps you notice an inefficient investment allocation and discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. Jeff, anytime any of us get to go to an Ohio State game, it's a highlight of our year. Spring practice or regular season game, doesn't matter if it's in the shoe or if it's on the road, doesn't matter where it is, man. It's Buckeye football, and it is different. You had the opportunity to go to the game this past Saturday. I got kind of excited and a little jealous, just a little bit, when you said you're going to the game. And so I'm curious to hear what you witnessed when you were there Saturday night.
It was different. I talked to Mo Murphy about this, Coach Mo Murphy about this earlier in the week. It was weird. I really enjoyed it. First of all, I really enjoy it. Every time I get to go to the stadium, the weather was perfect, all of these things, and I get to enjoy it. But I still watch it with such a critical eye, and it's no different than watching the All-22 with a critical eye. And so as everybody's cheering and having a great time, like I see, and after post game, Ryan Day validated what I saw. Like Ryan Day brought up, like there's several things that we did this game that will get us beat later in the year. And a flaw to mine is like I couldn't quit focus on it. The thing that you notice is like the athletes, especially in the secondary and in the wide receiver core and all this, unbelievable. My biggest takeaway was then once I came home and rewatched it, man, Julian Sayin, they gave gave him the most responsibility that they've given him all year, and I thought he did great. I thought they let him make, so he has really not had to make a decision until the Minnesota game. They took that off the table, and we talked about that, Jay, when we did the show after Texas. I was like, I think Brian Hartline did this perfectly. Like, just don't make him overthink it. They let him like make some decisions in this game, and he made some great ones. He made some. This kid can throw the ball. Everything they said about him throwing the ball, he can throw the ball, and I was really impressed. I thought the my number one play of the game was the touchdown to Smith, the second touchdown of the game in the corner of the end zone. I'm like, that play works at any level of football, and so I thought Sayin came away with the thing. The negative is just I still don't think Ohio State can run the ball when they have to. And that worries me so much because we both live, in the Northern Hemisphere. We both live above the Mason-Dixon line, Jay. I don't know if this weather is going to hold up. And I just don't that it concerns me that Ohio State can't run the ball when they have to. But, overall, it was a little sluggish. I still think they resorted to athletes, but we have the athletes. So Ohio State has the advantage if they can bail themselves out with, like, if we need to, like, we have Cornell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. And here's a hot take. I don't think there's as big a difference between those two as people think. Cornell Tate has turned himself into an absolute baller, and Emeka Egbuka in the NFL is going to get Cornell Tate paid because they're going to be like, if that guy's that good, that guy is going to be really good. So, yeah, that was just some of my quick takeaways.
The Jeremiah Smith and Cardinal Tate thing is very interesting because they catch the ball in the same way.
It's
unbelievable. So the two touchdowns that I'm thinking about right now, the one with Cardinal Tate, He only had one, but he beat old boy on the right side. He made that one fake on the inside. Homie was 5 yards behind him. And then Sayin didn't really throw the ball as far as he needed to throw it. That's one of the knocks, is like his arm strength really isn't at the rate where it needs to be, but it gets there every time, and his guys make the plays. For Jeremiah Smith, when homie got out of his break, he put his foot in the ground and then broke toward the pylon, the back corner of the end zone. That defensive back was trying to catch his balance because he is not used to a guy exploding like that. That might be the one difference between Tate and Smith, is Smith's explosion out of breaks, where I think Cardinal Tate's a lot smoother in his route running. I think Jeremiah Smith is smooth, but he's more explosive. I think that explosiveness does kind of separate them a little bit. You mentioned a running game, and I'm glad you brought this up. Guys, one thing I'll say, Jeff and I don't share notes before shows. I give him some topics. We have our notes, and then we just talk about them on the show. I had no idea he was going to bring up the running game, but that is true. And I thought you were going to bring up the short yardage situations where they can't really run second and short, third and short, fourth and short. Like, that is still a situation where they're trying to figure out the right play calls. They're trying to figure out right personnel. I think the run game stuff is serious. I don't think that's something that Ohio State fans should just be glossing over and saying, oh, if you start Bo Jackson, things are going to be fine. I don't think so. I think you need to start Bo Jackson. But for some reason, Jeff, it's kind of like a six-man in basketball. There are some guys that are better off the bench than with starting. I think Bo's the best back. I think they have figured out how to bring him off the bench, give him 15 or 16 carries, and he gets 100 yards. They didn't figure out how to start him and to get that same production. So I don't understand if it's, well, Bo needs to start, but he's better off the bench. So we're going to start Donaldson, who clearly is not the most efficient running back on the team, but based off personnel, and maybe it's the youth factor for Bo Jackson, you got to bring him off the bench. I was thinking about this recently, Jeff. I was watching a Pacers game, and Mo Williams, I don't know what team he was on at this time, but he was a six-man for whatever team he was on. My dog came off the bench and put up 50 points. And I'm thinking about that and thinking, he wouldn't have done that if he was a starter. Because if he was a starter, he's in the flow of the game. He's right there. He would have tried to get certain guys touches early. Because, there's some big men. If you don't get them touches for the first 2 or 3 times down the court, they mentally check out. Where Mo Williams is kind of like a microwave. You put the boy in the game, boom, easy buckets. He's a bucket master. And so maybe the solution, which is something that I didn't really consider until you brought that up, maybe the solution for the running game is to put Bo Jackson on the bench. You start Donaldson. Well, you're at a disadvantage early. I think he can kind of set the tone with the offensive line, and then you bring in Bo Jackson, where the defense is not ready for a guy like that, who's clearly the better back, to come off the bench and be the change of pace. But maybe that's what's best for the offense. Maybe I'm crazy, Jeff, but I wouldn't be shocked if they went back to starting Donaldson, bringing Bo Jackson off the bench, while still giving Jackson more touches.
And I think that's the right thing to do. You're exactly right. We have 3 running backs that they're all good right now. They're not even really good right now. They're all good right now, and that's fine.
Correct.
But it does feel like, and also, like, how it is as an offensive line, you're like, you have a different feel for this running back and a different timing for this running back. And when it comes to the running game, it's just, I'm sorry, it's just not there. I watch and I watch and I watch. And this has been a staple of Ryan Day, because understood, when it's on turf and you need pass protection, you have to have that team. And so you have to be able, it is so hard to be able to build a team that can win in a shootout in the, in the Superdome, and also grind it out in, Wisconsin when it's pouring down rain, and you got to choose one or the other. And for years, they kind of chose the more of the road grading team, and then they would get bulldozed, in a dome team. But like, there's definitely a problem there to where we're like, okay, we need to, like, I think last year we kind of got bailed out by talent at the running back position. And I think the running game, a lot of it became screen passes. I know they both had 1,000 yards. I sound stupid for saying this, but like, it was kind of bailed out by the talent. That's not going to happen this year. Now, I love what they're doing by getting Sayin under center, running more out of the pistol. I agree with the philosophy of it. I'm just saying, as we speak, after this, game, it's not happening yet. The gaps aren't filling up yet. And here's what happens. This is great when it's nice weather. We also know that, like, well, we'll just go play action and we've got an easy touchdown to 17 or 4 on the outside. Like, that's guaranteed. We haven't even had to use our slot receivers yet. We're barely using the tight ends. Like, I understand all that. What I worry about is when the wind kicks up. Like, what the Northwestern, does anybody remember the Northwestern game from, like, so it'd be 3 years ago now? CJ Stroud goes to Chicago, the best thrower in the country, completely neutralized because he couldn't throw the football anymore. That could have cost them a playoff shot because they didn't have and it didn't, because Northwestern basically just couldn't capitalize on it. But like that's the game to where, like, but what we saw a couple years before that, oh wait, we saw Justin Fields and Trey Sermon be like, hey man, this isn't going. Like, everybody forgets that we kind of bailed out of Justin Fields at the end of that year in 2020 and just said, like, Trey, man, you got to take us home. I don't know if we have that option right now, is what worries me. And Ryan Day said the same thing after the game. Like, again, everybody, I understand that we can beat Minnesota 10 out of 10. I'm talking about the playoffs. I'm talking about winning a back-to-back national championship. I'm talking about all these things. And Ryan Day sees it just like I do. And I believe that everybody on the staff sees it just like I do. Just me and Jay are just bringing it up.
Jeff, let's continue that conversation about not just Ohio State beating Minnesota, but beating Penn State, beating Michigan, and other big boys in the country. We'll discuss that after the break. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections, like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. I love how quick it is. You can make your lineup in under a minute. My favorite part? Prize Picks just added stacks. So if I want to ride with a player, I can select their pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. And the new injury reboot feature, if your player leaves early and doesn't return, it won't count against you. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Jeff, you bring up something that's a very important topic, and I have not gone with a national topic with Ohio State in a very long time. It's been more centered around the team, what they're doing, how they get better, the coaching, and really winning the Big Ten and beating Michigan. But when you mention, we could beat Minnesota 10 out of 10, I believe even the casual Ohio State fan believes that. We know the diehards believe it. But I think even the casual fans that are just learning about Ohio State realize Ohio State's talent. Talent alone should beat Minnesota 10 out of 10. The issue comes into, can this current version of Ohio State beat Miami? Can they beat Georgia? Can they beat Alabama? Can they even beat Michigan? I hate bringing that up. Ohio State is more talented than Michigan this year. I am not going to say they are not. But they were more talented last year, and we all know what happened. That run game part does concern me for those big games. I think Sayin can overcome a lack of a run game to throw for 303 touchdowns. I think he can. But if your defense happens to be on the field a little bit longer, because they weren't on the field that much against Minnesota. It was a bunch of 3 and outs, a bunch of 5 plays and punch for Minnesota. They weren't really on the field for a very long time. Let's say you're going up against Miami and Carson Beck, or you're going up against Georgia and Gunnar Stockton, and they're able to sustain drives, 6, 7, 10, 12-play drives. That lack of a run game could be concerning, because next thing you know, going up against a team that has NFL size, future NFL players on the other side, and if you can't run against them, that's playing into something that could at one time be your strength, that can now be a plague for your team, where now all of a sudden the offense for Ohio State is not sustaining drives. They're on the field for 3 or 4 or 5 plays and then a punt, and the defense is back on the field for another 10-play drive, and that lack of run game could be concerning against the big boys in the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what concerns me so much. And I had this discussion with everybody like, oh, yeah, Minnesota game was a blowout. And I'm like, wasn't. Washington was a blowout. It wasn't. And Ryan Day slow playing this And if I had a negative, yeah, if you got the plan that nobody's going to score more than 14 points on you, what you got going is going to work. Like you're in all these things. But what I worry about it is like, are you ready to score 50? Are you preparing your team to be in a dogfight? Again, we talked about it last week. I watched the Penn State Oregon game, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Like, I think this team gets to Sayin on this. Either one of those teams gets to Sayin, I think knocks him down, gets him dirty. Like when he needs a break, like are we ready to say that like, now we're just going to put it all on your arm and you can throw us out of every game and hope that like everything's great and the field's fast and that all these screen passes and all these things that wind up being big plays are going to work? No, like you need to be able to like get chunks on the ground. We don't. This is what bothers me. We do not have a breakaway run game right now. Like at no point am I like, I don't hold my breath when any of these running backs get the ball. And so if I'm not, Miami's not. And Miami's like, well, we got Carson Beck. I know Ohio State defense is going to be great. It's going to be good all season, but we don't know that it's going to be that good. And so like if I'm Miami, I'm like, we got Carson Beck. I think we can score 21, but I think I can game plan and do what Texas did last year in the playoffs and take Smith out of it and all this. So it absolutely concerns me. I'm not sitting here saying we have to have a power run game like we did in 1975, but I'm saying like you have to be able to take the pressure off the quarterback. And I know they're trying, but like we're in the same situation with the RPO that we don't have the R in RPO. Like Sayin's not going to start running the ball. We need to protect him. So like I think we need to either stick to the pistol or just let it fly, one or the other. Because what I fear is what's going to happen is like we're going to have all this talent out there. We're going to have Ennis, we're going to have Tate, we're going to have Smith, and then we're going to go down and being like, oh, Sayin went 12 for 30 and we didn't get the job done. We couldn't run the ball. And we get beat again, much like the end of last year because of that. So like we have to figure out a way to be road graders, and it's not about like they take the time off the clock as it is now, but that only works because we know that on third down we can throw it to Smith.
Yeah,
that's not going to work all year. It just will not when you play these high level teams, and whether it's in the season or in the playoffs. So I think that I'm as concerned as Ryan Day looked after that game, as far as like, we're good, but we're not. I'm glad we didn't play Oregon, Penn State, Miami, Georgia, Alabama this week.
Does Texas Tech concern you with Ohio State?
I mean, they concern me as far as like if you let your guard down. I mean, they don't concern me as far as quality of team. But I think that's a team that like that's where you roll in. Depending on, it doesn't really matter where you play that game. If you tell me Texas Tech is coming to Ohio Stadium, I think it's much like the Tennessee game last year of being like, okay, we got Tate and Smith. Tate and Smith are awesome. Like these guys are like so good that they're going to bail you out of a game. So that's a situation to where I think we'll get there. We'll get enough pressure on Texas Tech. So no, probably not Texas Tech. It's going to take a quarterback combination and a defense combination. Honestly, we just saw what happened to Florida and Texas. Same difference. Alabama is kind of figured it out, with Simpson and all of that. They've figured it out. And Miami's got I think Miami and Ohio State are kind of like on a collision course as far as like the way the teams are built and everything. And both sides of the ball, and like we don't give up points, you don't give up points, we can score points, you can score points. I think Ohio State's probably slightly better right now, but again, I don't want to go to Miami and play them in the rain right now with a first year quarterback.
Jeff, last thing here for you. I have on the show not really voiced my concern. Yeah, I have. I won't deny that. I voiced my concern about some of Hartline's play calling, specifically in short yardage situations. And I do think Hartline is part of the problem with Ohio State's offense finding a flow. Outside of your first scripted plays, 12 to 15 plays that are scripted, it seems like you get to the middle of the field and it kind of gets a little clunky. like your shoes have cement in them and you're trying to get down the field as quickly as you can. But you realize with cement in your shoes, you're moving really slow. And it seems like Hartline, you mentioned on the job training was saying last time you were here, Hartline's getting on the job training. And his training is just as valuable as Julian Sayin's. The issue is Hartline's trying to deal with a lot, not just running an offense, also trying to coach up the receivers at the same time. And I don't know if that's part of the issue with why the offense gets clunky and why there are issues with short yardage situations for Ohio State's offense.
Yeah, I definitely think that like you can watch the game, and I do appreciate that Day is letting Hartline coach, do his thing, because we know he can yank it out from under you like he did Knowles last year. And I mean that as an absolute shot to Knowles after this week. But I do think that you can see it like, man, he's trying to figure it out on the fly. I don't know if it's because I don't know what Hartline's philosophy is on offense. I don't know if he's whatever you do, I've got a young quarterback. It really feels like I've got a young quarterback. Do not turn the ball over offense. Like it really feels like he's trying to bring Sayin along so slow and protective. And I do think it worked this week. I think Sayin looked much better. But by the way, Sayin threw a terrible pass that could have been an interception in that Minnesota game. And let's say Minnesota runs it back, and now we're talking about a touchdown. Like things could have went totally different. It feels like Hartline is coaching this based on his quarterback. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt and say he's in the room with the guy. He knows the guy. He knows what'll crack him and what won't, and all of these things. And I do think he, let it go a little bit more. Am I concerned about the pace of play? I am. Am I concerned about, we talked about it. You got all these players out there that can do all this stuff, all this dynamic possibilities, and you're running kind of more of an NFL, like, let's not get like, because in the NFL, you're like, if you win by 10, you're like, great game.
Yeah.
That's not Ohio State offense. And again, I keep worrying about this. This is all fine until you need to score 45 points to win a playoff game. And these players haven't done this. Like Brandon Ennis has not been near enough evolved. The tight ends have not been near enough evolved. We're not creating like great screenplays and stuff like we did for Henderson. I'll put it this way. I see what Hartline's doing. This does not look as good as what Chip Kelly did last year with his team. I think Chip Kelly would be doing a better job with this offense because of experience, like you brought up.
His name is Jeff Hunt. He's the host of the Jeff Needs Sports podcast. He's one of those guys you're going to hear potentially weekly throughout the rest of the season. I haven't told Jeff that yet until just now, but I don't know. Jeff and I have fun chopping it up, talking about Ohio State football. And so we're going to try to find a way to accommodate our schedules to get us both on the show together, maybe once a week. We'll try and make that happen. You can follow me on Twitter or any social media platform at jstevens07. Follow him at jhunt006. Guys, this has been Locked on Buckeyes right here on a hump day. We'll see you next time.